So our agenda for today, we're going to be learning what's new in the new release for QualiWare 10.9. We have CloseReach news that Kevin will be updating us with. There is also a little section where we will be going over the Plus license user experience. And at the end, we're going to have an open forum where anyone can bring up any issues they've been having or just have a little chat about QualiWare in general. So what's new in 10.9? We're going to start off with Devlin, and he can jump in and share his screen.
Yep. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Definitely.
Yes. Okay. So today I'm going to be going over a couple of new features in 10.9. We'll be taking a look at the Quali help. We're going to look at the web modeler. There's a couple of new features in there that have been added that bring the functionality a little bit closer to what we're used to in the QLM client. And we're also going to see a publishing feature that we found just last week. Yeah, so without further ado, we'll go right into the QualiAI. Or not QualiAI, sorry, QualiHelp. So down here in the bottom right corner is this new button here, do you need help using QualiWare? And what this is it's a little help function that wasn't here before, and it basically gives us a whole lot of information that's available on the COE, but instead of having to navigate through the COE, which can be frustrating at times, it's easily accessible here from QualiWare. So we've got Getting Started, which gives us just a brief overview of desktops, dashboards, menus, basically the basics of setting up your QLM web environment. There's QualiTube, which gives us the links to every single video that QualiWare has put out on their QualiTube. And if you click one, you'll get a little pop-up so you can watch the video. It's nice and convenient. There's What's New, which gives us everything that's new in the release notes for 10.9 as well as 10.8. For the purposes of this demo, we're covering these top 5 items here. And we've got a FAQ and we've got tools. So this part will go a little more in depth on the dashboards, repository explorer, spreadsheets, and so on. We can see this is all stuff that was available on the COE, but it's now it's much more convenient to access. And as well, there's a search function if you're looking for template specifics. You can search it up and looking for business process, and it'll give you a brief overview as well as a link that will take you to its page on the COE. So as well with this, there is a little bit of context sensitivity that comes with it. So we'll take a look at that. Go to my to-do for the QUG. This is our new publishing feature, but I'm going to circle back to that. So here we're on the diagram editor. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this and have used it before. So the QualiHelp here is context sensitive to the type of diagram that you're using. So you still have access to this one here is the QualiTube link. This gives you a few useful shortcuts. And this one explains the web modeler. And then it's also got explaining the diagram. So since I'm using a business process network, it gives us the information for a business process network. And then it also, you can just click on the left or right here, and it's going to take you through each individual template that's available on a business process network. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what you're working with, there's a very convenient tool here to give you a little bit more information. So that's really the basics of the QualiHelp. It's basically taken the COE and put it here for us to use. So now we're going to look at a couple of the features that have been introduced to the web modeler. So the first one that I'm going to show is they've added the ability to post an image onto an object. So this is available in the QLM client, but it hasn't been available online until now. So here we'll right-click on our object. We go Appearance, Insert Image File. And I like Jurassic Park, so I always use dinosaurs in my demos, so I'll put the Velociraptor in here. And it's as easy as that. We've got our image inserted onto the object. And I'll just just click save. So that's the first new functionality that they've added. So they've also added the option to be able to have multiple diagrams open in here. So you can either create a new diagram or open existing diagrams. And I'm going to scroll down to workflow diagrams because I know I've got quite a few of these. Some of these may be blank, but that's okay. So yeah, as we can see, as easy as that, we've got 5 open diagrams that we can work on at the same time. It's an easy way to see how these might connect. And as well, when you've got multiple diagrams open, you get this overview option on the left-hand side. And when we click this, we can see every diagram that we've got open, and we can select whichever one we want to view. I'll just close some of these. As well, we can create a new diagram. Doesn't really matter what type, I suppose. Go business process diagram. And this will open for us as well in a brand new window. So again, this is another function that we've always had in QLM, but we haven't had on the web. And as things gradually migrate that way, this is a very useful tool for us. And the third new function in here is the compare revision. So we can see here, I've only got one revision for this diagram, so I'm going to have to go make another one. So we will exit out of here. Oh, apparently I made some changes. Let's just make sure we capture those. And we'll exit. So before I make my new revision, I want to show you this this new publishing function that we discovered last week. So most repositories are going to have an auto-publishing function. So ideally, when you make a diagram, you save it. It'll always show up on the web. You're never going to see this model is not published, ideally. But every now and then, something gets missed, and you do get something like this. And before 10.9, you had to go into the QLM hard client, and you had to find your diagram and manually publish it. So in 10.9, as long as you've got QCL engine running, they've added this send publishing request button. So instead of having to go into QLM to get this published, you click the button, wait a moment, and now it's published. All right, so now I'm just going to take this through governance so I can make a new revision. All right, create new revision. We can see we go from revision 0 to revision 1. Go back into our edit diagram. And now I want to make a couple of changes. So we'll remove that, we'll shift this down, and we'll add a new object. We'll link that with the resource. All right, so we've made a couple of changes, but now say I haven't touched this diagram in a while and I want to know what's different between this revision and the last one. We'll go back to File, back to Compare Revision. You see we can't select revision 1 because that's the one that we're viewing right now, so we'll click revision 0, select OK, and we can see the image of revision 0 is here, and if we click it, this takes a moment sometimes. There we go. So we can see visually represented on here what has changed. So we can see this is highlighted in red. That means something was removed here, this business event. We can see highlighted in blue means it's been moved or resized. And we can see that this is a brand new object, so it's highlighted in green. In terms of things in the web modeler, those are the main changes that we have identified up to this point. I can show you one more thing. So in addition to all that,
it's good to see that the connectors also get colored as well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So we can see that a couple of new web models got added in 10.9. So there's about a dozen of them here. They're all listed on the release notes for 10.9. As well, we've got a brand new model, like a whole new model called the value stream model. So that's also a new feature for the web and for QLM as well. And yeah, that's that about covers what's new in the web modeler at this time. Any questions? Nothing?
I think there were a few questions, but Phil seemed to answer them in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
He was quick. Okay.
I was going to say that now with new revisions in the web modeler, Devlin, now you can count all of your dinosaurs in one place, can't you? So
Sure can.
there you go. Now it looks promising.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah, a couple of nice advancements for sure in this version.
Thanks, Devlin. Next up, we have QualiAI, who will be covered by Cindy.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Indeed. I'm with the customer success team at CloseReach. Some of you may have interacted with me through support tickets or some client meetings. If you don't know who I am part of the support team with CloseReach, and I will be handling a lot more tickets in the future. So if you ever have any support issues that you have, feel free to give us a reach out there, and one of us will be there to help you out. But today I will be speaking on QualiAI, and I know we're all excited about QualiAI and what we know so far, but we'll share what CloseReach has come down with QualiAI for now. So let's start off, and I know you are very all aware of what QualiAI does, but I'm just going to go over a quick overview before I get into what we know as of now. So QualiAI is a new feature in 10.9, which will make the lives of all those who create diagrams a lot easier. Users that can create diagrams within seconds, given certain prompts and context. Now, simple prompts such as create a process to bake a cake will create a process to bake a cake. And in the future, QualiAI will be used to potentially have report creation based on certain diagrams. But that's something that is somewhere down the line and is still under production. Now, what we know so far with the setup of QualiAI, the team has been working over the past couple of weeks trying to get QualiAI set up, and we have been in contact with QualiWare. We haven't been able to completely set up QualiAI, but we have taken a couple of steps, and these are some of the things that we've learned and some of the gaps that we found in the documentation that hopefully QualiWare will resolve within the next couple of weeks. The first of which is that there were some issues with the OpenAI API key. So when we input the OpenAI API key, we've learned that we must put the word bearer before putting the OpenAI API key. If we're using Azure AI, then we don't have to use the word bearer, but for the OpenAI API key, we must put the word bearer, such as over here. So before our key, we have on the left the word bearer space. And the QualiAI.model, QualiAI.url, these are things that will be customized by the individual user, or not the individual user, but the system administrators, which are provided in the documentation provided on QualiWare's Center of Excellence. The other thing we have learned is that there is a new template called a knowledge scope, which calls upon functionality from ontology, which is also a diagram. We'll get into that in the next couple of slides, but for now, I'll just go over how QualiAI is intended to work. So let's say we have a diagram. I know it is a bit blurry here, but this is a diagram used for the process of selling a car, purchasing a car. And what we'll do is we will select receive delivery part of this diagram business process network, and we will use the QualiAI button. Now, once we click the QualiAI button, we are asked to put some input in, and this will be the prompt that we have to put in. We can either decide to put a prompt in there to say that, okay, for this receive delivery, it will work in this fashion, in this manner, and it will create the diagram based on that. Otherwise, if we decide to leave it empty and just give it with the context of received delivery, it will decide on how to create the diagram, and it'll create a diagram. And within a couple of seconds, it'll create a beautiful diagram just like this with different lanes for, let's say, the quality control team, inventory management team, and whatnot. Now, in the future, we'll look at if these diagrams can be potentially edited through AI, just as how we would use for ChatGPT prompts. For example, telling ChatGPT that I like your answer, but I want you to change this, this, this. That's something that we'll look into the future. But as for now, we're trying to get setting up underway, and we'll be able to do a lot of testing. So once we do have this diagram, we can also go back to the original diagram and notice that under received delivery, we see that there is a diagram appended. And this is something that automatically occurs, which is pretty nice. And now we'll move on to the knowledge scope, which is a new template in QualiWare. So at the moment, with update of 10.9, 2 current out-of-the-box knowledge scopes were provided to everyone. These are the generate business process diagram and generate workflow diagram. They should work as is out of the box, but there may be some issues with the knowledge scope, and QualiWare is working on getting that documentation updated. And how these work is they work based on ontologies, where they see how a business process may call upon different aspects, for example, a short description or a name, a purpose, description, whatever it may be. These can be defined by users. So let's say someone in CloseReach wants to create an ontology for the knowledge scope for a different sort of diagram. They can create their own ontology however they would like it, and that would provide AI the context that is needed to be assessed for a business process, for example. And the examples that they've given, they suggest that we use those as guides to link the context templates for personalized ontologies. Now, proper linkage ensures that AI-generated content aligns with the different business frameworks that are there. Now, where can we find this information? There are a couple new links on the COE. Be sure to check these out. Beyond just the QualiAI documentation, there is documentation on the knowledge scope and the ontology diagram. These two are very key towards setting up QualiAI. And hopefully within the next couple of weeks, when we get our configuration set up, we will look into getting some information out to our clients very soon. Well, that is it for me. I know I tried to keep it short, so I didn't take up too much time, but do we have any questions?
Vince, I know in the past you've had some questions about being able to model ontologies in QualiWare, and they've adopted the OWL method of doing that. So those models are present in QualiWare right now, for building and mapping ontologies.
Yep. Just as such.
Excellent. Thanks.
Any other questions for Cindy?
If not, great. If you have any questions, please do reach out to us, support@closereach.ca, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, though.
And as a reminder, we do have the open forum at the end of the session. So if you do come up with any questions in the meantime, jot them down. Feel free to stick around, and we'll be here to answer your questions. And next up, we have Kevin, and he will be going over our CloseReach news.
Sorry about that. Need to unmute myself. Welcome, everybody. 10.9, you've seen some of the new features, and you saw from the release notes, there's a whole series of different things. Some of the key elements, obviously, Archimate 3.2, and just so that people know, there has been a patch release put out. So if you downloaded the initial release, there has been an update to that already. So you may want to go back and check the download site for the latest information on 10.9. We have encountered, I guess, in our testing, a bug that they said was fixed and is not, and possibly 2 additional bugs. One of them has to do with Archimate dashboards, and we're currently looking into that deeper with them, and we'll provide an update to all the technical and primary business users on those bugs that we've identified, so that you can account for that in your own implementations. One thing about the new version of QualiWare is the extension of functions that you saw in the standard tool set to some of the Archimate models. So being able to to do some analysis that you could do in the standard tool set, now you're able to do that in Archimate. And there'll be more on that in our next user group meeting. A bit of a training update. We've got quite a few people who've requested that we go back and revisit our systems administration training, because there have been changes there in the administration of the product. And we're figuring some of those things out in terms of linking in DevOps and other Azure DevOps and other tools. And some of the API components have changed. So we're in the process of putting together a course offering, updating our systems administrators course. And we're going to have Bob running. QCL is going to be around for a while. So Bob's actually going to run QCL Basic and Advanced again. So you can check our website for those dates, and our new web modeler course that we've put together, again, with more and more diagrams being available there, whether you're a Plus user or whether you're an architect. You'll be using the web interface a lot more. We're actually looking at right now how we modify our QualiWare Basic course to essentially do all of it through the web interface. So that is coming very, very soon. Embrace Industry 4.0, Architect Your Way Out of the Jungle by Gail Peterson. So Gail's been involved with CloseReach and QualiWare for quite a few years, from the large-scale asset management point of view and reliability and sustainability. And she put together a book. And actually, Jacob has a chapter in that book. It's actually all about architecture. And we're going to have Gail give us a bit of a preview of different parts of that in the next user group meeting. But we've ordered a couple of copies for the office here. So if there's anybody who wants to drop in and borrow a copy and read all about what Jacob said, we could arrange that. I think I've already mentioned Archimate dashboards. There'll be more information on that in the next user group meeting. But some of the standard functionality for looking for different kinds of content in a particular Archimate diagram are now available through the web interface. And you heard Michael introduce himself earlier. Michael Rowe has joined us as a software engineer. So he'll be picking up some of the development work on the technical side for us. And Jansen has been with us through a previous co-op term, and he's back again this term. So more to follow on that. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thanks, Kevin. There's a question in the chat from Daniel. Is the web modeler course user-based or technical implementation-based?
Technical implementation-based. Not quite sure what that means. You will learn how. So in the basic modeler course, there are 4 or 5 diagram types that you can, with a Plus license, do modeling in. If you have an architect license, obviously there's a much broader range of modeling you're capable of. In our QualiWare basic course, we typically use the business process network and BPMN diagram, business process diagram, to teach people how to use QualiWare. And I would expect as we move our basic course over to that, we will do the same thing. The actual modeler course that we've built, though, is more intended. The current version is more intended to the plus user. So the 4 primary process model diagram types. But I would expect actually that we will probably have 2 different courses. One with a business process orientation, teaching people how to do that and update content, which you can do with a plus license. And then there's the architects who want to do a lot more, with a lot of different model and diagram types. So, as we transition our basic course over, there will be a lot more information in that outlining web capabilities that a plus user may not need. So really, I can envision us having 2 courses. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so it's more at user base. So how do you use a web modeler to create such and such a diagram? It's not intended to, this is how you configure a diagram to be able to do web modeling.
That's correct.
Yep. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Okay.
So next up, we have Anthony, who's going to be presenting the plus license user experience. So I'll let you jump in there.
Thank you for that. So yeah, so I'm definitely, just like Tamara just said, I will be demoing kind of what the plus user is able to do on the web here, and as well as I will be demonstrating the web modeler as well. So here's that interface that we've seen. You'll see on the top desktop here, I'm on process management. The web gives us 2 ways to create a diagram right away, through a tile. So here we see draw BPMN diagram. So if I click that, it would just allow me to put in a name. But we're going to go through the repository explorer just so we can kind of get the full experience. So up at the top here, so that very, very top toolbar, top right, we have what could be seen as binoculars. We'll open that up. And down here, we have a list of all of our templates as well as some folders. So the folders can be used to organize your content. Here's one that I've created, Anthony Trial, and I've asked it to populate with all the business process networks in the repository. So from here, we can open up, and here's all my BPNs. I'm going to open it up just to show some other options. So it's sort of a vertical ellipses. We'll go to properties. And you'll see here we have the main, the web form, we have the main page, and then we have advanced and objects down the left-hand side. So for advanced, these are sort of all the options you can use to populate your folder. You can include objects with tags. So if you have a certain project, and I'll give it a super cool name, we'll call it Excalibur. You can hashtag all of the objects you're using in that project with that word hashtag Excalibur, and you'll have it all sorted inside of a folder. In this case, this is the field I used, include objects of the following templates, and I used business process network. So all the business process networks in my repository are in there. Or you can do the most sort of the most basic one is just including individual objects, and you just input those manually. So let's say I want to create a business process diagram, and with a Plus license, that is possible. So I'm just going to expand, and I'm going to type in business process. Enter. We have business process diagram here. We'll hit that vertical ellipses, create, and I want to create a new one. And we'll call it QUG January 29, just as an example. So after we've hit create, the web modeler opens up for us. Another interesting thing is to actually get templates onto your canvas. So I'll be calling this canvas for the presentation. To actually get these symbols onto the canvas, the web modeler gives us 3 ways. The conventional way, and I'll demo all 3. It gives us the conventional way where I can click these onto here. And it also gives us an option to import from text and import from table. So I'll do them in order. I'll do the classic way first. So for a business process diagram, we want to put in a pool first. And doesn't have to be a pool first. Of course, everyone's going to be a little different in how they order in which they model in. So the hotkey F2 still applies here. If I have the object selected, I hit F2, it allows me to rename this. So we'll just call it operations. And this will be a sort of a mock project management process. Operations, and we will put, so down here on the left-hand side, we have our symbols, properties, explore, and settings. The symbols is going to give me a list of all the possible symbols I can place on the canvas. The properties are the actual properties of whatever is selected, and you can just hit edit and a web form will pop up for you and you can populate the properties, which I will demo as well once the diagram is a bit more complete. The Explorer is going to bring up a list of the possible templates that I can put on the diagram. And when I expand, it will show all the existing templates of that type in the repository, so I could reuse if needed. So go back to symbols, and we'll put 2 lanes. First lane up here, and we will call it planning. Second one here, and we will call this implementation. So we can expand just to fit in all our activities. First activity, we will call it plan project. And you'll see here, when you're typing, I guess there was a plan project from a previous diagram. Some existing instances of an activity in this example are showing up for me. So we'll just call this, we'll just reuse it. Another neat thing with the web modeler here is we have these, you can see them, they're gray, sort of gray transparent arrows on the activity. If I simply just click it, a new activity shows up and I just select the connector, and now I can call this review. And we'll do that again. And we'll review and we'll send for action. And now I can even select down. So if I select the downward arrow, an activity will pop up down here. And we'll say assess plan, and we'll move it over here. Implement, and report will be the final one. So from here, we'll just add a starting event and an end event. So we'll just name the start. put a arrow. Statements flow. And another one at the very end. Show it here. And this one will make an end event. So another way we can edit those properties is you can go through here, properties, and edit, or you can right click, edit properties. And we'll make this in, and we'll see a bit more of this web form once I start filling in content for the activities. So I hit apply. So now that we have the picture all done, we can start filling out the properties on these activities. So we'll edit properties, and the web form will pop up for us. Now, one important thing to note is that with the Plus license, we of course can create these process diagrams, business process network, business process diagram, workflow diagram, but it doesn't stop us from creating other objects in our architecture. So our positions, our people, our goals, you can still create and connect to those other pieces of your architecture. So in this case, responsible is the planning manager. For accountable, we'll hit this link right here. And here's our selections of what we can link to. So what can be accountable for an activity, a person, position, role, org unit, interest group, stakeholder. In this case, we'll go with a position. So here is all of the positions in my repository that I can link to. But you'll see down here in the left corner, we have create new. So if you don't see what you need, just because you have a Plus license doesn't mean you can't create a new position. So here, and we'll put planning director. And you'll see it's selected automatically. We'll hit select, and there we go. Here's a short description, so simply a text field. A few text fields, a long description. Breaks down to supported, consulted, informed. So you have your RASCII right there. Here's an interesting field here that we'll go over is the strategic alignment field. So hit the ellipses, and we will hit insert. From here, this is everything that we can put into that field, of course. Let's say we want to put in a goal. So here's goal right there, select it. And a list of all the existing goals show up. So again, with a Plus license, we can create these linkages to all the other parts of our architecture. We're not hindered from doing that. And again, in the bottom left corner here, you can see we have create new. So if we need to create a new goal, we can do that. In this case, we'll just select one that's already existing. Gender equality, clean water, sanitation. So that is how to, now that's pretty conventional with how the tool is in the in QLM. You're putting the objects onto the canvas, you're filling out the properties. Another way to do it on the web, and we will do the import from table first. So hit import from table. So I'll go with that again. There's the vertical ellipses on the far side. And when you hover over it, it'll say more tools. They'll expand, import from table. They'll say the action will clear the diagram. Are you sure that you want to proceed? Because it's a demo, that's fine. I'll clear the content and we will start another one. So you notice here is a sort of, well, it looks like a spreadsheet. And we have pool, lane, and pool lane to start. So that was what I started when I created the diagram. So we'll start the exact same way. So at the pool, we will start with operations. Something like this come in handy if you have a ton of content and you just want to get as much onto your diagram as possible. Let's say you had, 50 50 activities. You can get them into the spreadsheet, get the diagram populated quickly, and then you can start moving things around instead of clicking, filling out the name, clicking, filling out the name. If you had a spreadsheet with all that content, you'd copy and paste in here, and that will populate the canvas. So you have operations, we have our first pool there. And then our first lane, we will call it just like we did before, planning. Our second lane, rotation. So now we have the two lanes, and you'll see that they did not go on top of each other. They went side by side. So after you do this, you will have to move some of these objects around. So for symbol, we want to set that symbol to activity. We will call the first one plan project. And you'll see plan project was the last one we used, and it had a goal attached to it. So even in here, QualiWare knows to reuse the objects in your architecture. Assess. And you'll have to, after you're done this, you will put your connections in. Assess. And let's say I want to put another one in here into the implementation lane, but I want send for action. First one here, and I'll try to remember what I put in the last time to try and make it the same. There we go. So we'll make this a bit bigger, just to show you an example. That's from there. And then from here, so you're not, once you use the import from table, you're not pigeonholed into just what the table gave you. You can then close that. You can select the canvas, and you'll see the spreadsheet has now gone away. And now you can move over to here into the symbols and just clean it up a little bit. You can add your connectors. You can add your start events. So it's a good way of getting content quickly onto the canvas and then fine tuning it manually with using the classic method. The last way is our import from text. Again, it's going to ask, this action will clear the diagram. Are you sure that you want to proceed? We will say okay. So when you use the import from text, there's actually some little instructions down here. So you'll be manually typing in this field. And in this case, in the example for the instructions, we have a connection layout and a hierarchical layout. So here you'll read example for connection layout, and we'll say, and I'll demo both. So here, settings, connections already there. Okay, good. So again, we'll say assess, tab, send to, sorry, the first one was plan. So plan, and then send to assess. And this one will be assess. So you'll see there we have plan, we have a connection here, and then we have assess. The next one, we'll go to settings and we'll go to hierarchical vertical. Backspace that. It's hierarchical vertical. So this would be, in a case where I have used something like this, there would be sort of your company processes, your wide sort of management processes at the top that break down into all the sort of sub processes that are used as containers to contain all the sub processes and then the breakdowns. So in this case, we'll try and use what we used before. So we'll say operations. operations first. And beneath operations, we're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to say the planning processes. Then same thing, we'll use the implementation. And final, we'll say project review board, project review processes. And then from there, let's say underneath planning, we wanted to break down those processes further, almost like you're just tabbing indentation. That's how it's going to work. So planning, we had assess. I keep forgetting about plan. Plan. And we'll say send for action. So underneath here, we could break down and actually have the actual models underneath here, where we can click in and see the process. If we want to break down, maybe the planning process has 5 steps that we need to document. We can break down this into its own process. So those are all the examples of the web modeler they give us 3 options to get all our content onto the canvas.
So if somebody has this already in a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, can they just paste this in here on the right?
It has to be this format.
Yeah.
Yeah, this format is what's telling it. So it's telling it operations at the top, planning, implementation, and project review, they're on the same line, are going to be right underneath it. And then the indentation here is telling it to put these under planning. But yeah, I think you could, from a Word document, paste this exact format and put it underneath there.
Anthony, there's also another question. Denise is asking, in your previous example, is the word send a term used to indicate a connector?
So I will put that in. So if we go here, I'll just backspace on here. Also, there it is. So here's the instructions here. So in this example, we have develop. So develop would be the name of the activity. Send to review, it would draw a dotted line that says send to review underneath it. And the tab is saying basically new object, review is the next activity. So put that into practice here, develop. So it knows right away there to name that activity develop. If I tab and send to review, I think I forgot a tab. So it's fighting me here last time. Let's see, develop. And to review. I think I have the issue.
Yeah, it's the layout. Yeah.
There it is right there. Connection. Yeah. So you have to set it to connection, or else it doesn't matter what you write here. It doesn't matter the format in which you're typing. It's always going to be reverting back to the connection. So in that case, all the text was on one line. So it said, this is the top activity. So now we'll go develop.
So the word send doesn't mean create a connector. It happens to be what you want it to be, kind of thing, or
yeah.
The name you've given it.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we have send. Here it's develop and send to review, but I don't have a third tab or a second tab and a last word there. So now it's develop and send to review has gone onto the connection, and review has become the last activity.
But the send to review connector could be turned anything. It doesn't need the word send in it.
Correct. Right. That's what I'm asking. Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
It's just the name of your connector.
Okay. Perfect.
And with the settings, you can change that connector from an association to any other type of connector allowed on this diagram.
Okay. Great.
So that was a demonstration of the modeler itself. Now I will go over to a diagram here that I've created.
So in other words, tell your people to stop using Visio and stop using Sparks.
So here is a diagram that I've created. Same idea. You'll see create plan, review, make changes, send for action. So these are HTML dashboards that are specific to the diagram itself. So you'll see kind of like a window pane setup. There's quite a few. And there's two separate layouts. So we have there's three actually. The classic view, which is this here. The browsing view, which will give us sort of the information we need to know right at the front. So the responsibility, who's the owner, responsible, the RASCII basically. The status of the document, so the valid to date, revision, its status, who last modified it. Aligned with, so right now I have just the diagram selected and we have goals associated with it, which regulations are associated with it, as well as a collaboration tile here, dashboard here, which I'll demonstrate later as well. You'll see that there's sort of what you can see right away on the screen, and depending on your resolution, in my case, I need to scroll down to see additional tiles. What can be done based on, whatever the case is, your preference or maybe even your role, the actual dashboards that you absolutely need to see to do your job, you can start moving these around. So up here, where I selected the drop down to select one of the three layouts, there is this button here, which looks kind of like a cascading windows, and we have enable, disable, edit mode. So in this case here, we can actually hide what we don't want to see, or we can move these dashboards around. So description is one that you may want to see right away. So you may want it as soon as you open the page. Maybe you don't want to have to scroll down. Interesting thing about these dashboards is that they do change based on what is selected on the diagram. So you'll see everything's loading up. The information is changing. So this is just the browsing view. On the analyzing and improving view, we have some of the same ones. And again, if you want to actually remove some of these, you can. If you don't want to see the same things on the analyzing and improving as you did on the browsing, not a problem. You can change that.
And that's your personal view, right? So the department sets up what the standard view is, but you can modify it for you specifically.
Yeah. So here we have, and we'll go through a couple of these. We have this one here, and I kind of want it up here. So some of these are visual. Some of them are best used with the diagram also in view. So I will enable that edit mode, and I will move this dashboard here. It's just simply dragging the highlight if field. And the edit one I wanted in view as well. That's it for now. So I'll go here and I'll hit save personal layout. So here's my diagram and here's highlight if. So the first one here is symbol has risk. So in this case, we can see right here, assess has a risk right there. But sometimes a diagram get very busy. You may want to hide these symbol buttons. So if you were to select here, symbol has risk, we'll see whatever, even if this button isn't showing, if this little symbol isn't showing, this will still highlight if I select symbol has risk. And these can be configured into, a bunch of different features. But these are the ones we have right now. So symbol has no owner. If you want to complete this diagram, instead of clicking through, and if it's, larger, and if you want to click through a lot of them, yes, or if you didn't want to click through a lot of them, and you just want to know, okay, which one is missing the owner field? symbol has no owner. In this case, I think all of them will be, yeah, all of it will be highlighted. I haven't put an owner on any of them. So I know right away, okay, these ones need an owner. I can click into it, edit, and put in my owner. From here, we have the edit dashboard. So each one of these is essentially a spreadsheet where you can edit the content from. So the first one, activity properties on workflows. So let's click that one. Let me just unclick that. Activity properties on workflows. So this is another way to edit content from the web. Not just loading up here. There we go. So here is the list of the activities I created. So you'll see here, create plan, assess, make necessary changes. I can edit those objects, those activities right from this spreadsheet. So we'll say we'll put an owner in there. Position, we'll put the chief executive officer. We will put assess. This is a text field, so we're just typing. So entire team must give go ahead before send to action. Now you notice the writing is italicized. You have to hit save for it to sort of lock in, and you'll see it kind of, yeah, you'll see it straighten out. And now it's locked in. And you can fill out a lot of fields from here. You see responsible resources, pretty much all the fields that you can when you open up the web form. So now we'll close this.
And if I've got chief executive officer there, could I copy that down into the other fields?
Yes. So you could just quickly, there we go. And then remember though, you still have to hit save.
So that's one of the differences on the modeler is that for people who are used to autosave happening and being set up and not requiring them to save, you have to save, right? So you're a little bit of a different user experience. So you have to save your diagram, you have to save your additions into the object properties, etc. So right. In our training material, we have save early, saved often in a very big and bold letters. So. But it's just a little bit of a behavioral change that's required on our part.
You'll see here I'm back to the diagram and we see Chief Executive Officer as now the owner of all our content. Another dashboard here that is quite useful is, so I kind of see it as the highlight if is one feature. You know, everything you press will highlight something. The edit is your spreadsheets. And then we have our analyses, which is basically our queries. So QRVs that you've built, some maybe probably this is a very new diagram. Another thing to remember on these dashboards, when you open them up, do not click back or home. Back won't take you back to the diagram. The web is reading as if this is the diagram open. There's this little X here. So you're actually closing the window. You're opening and closing windows. So from here, we also have a context view. So just like we had in the tool, we have a context view inside of this, in one of the dashboards. So hit context view, and here you'll see the risk and the comment linked by the business process diagram, and that links, you know, the goal, the activities, and the lanes. So going back to the comment, just like this. My buttons here have gone away. So we have our buttons down up here. So with the Plus license, we can still collaborate on all of this content. So in this case, let's say I want to leave a comment. So we have create comment here. My last comment, I was extremely nice. I said, great job. Maybe this one, I won't be so nice. This process has an error. Description for create plan needs more detail. So this one will say reject. So we'll apply, save. And you'll see here, I now have 2 comments, the great job and this process has an error. So you're leaving someone with the creator, or if you're the creator, you'll see everyone else's comments here, and that'll help you sort of fine tune this process. Other actions that you can do, you can create a nonconformance on a diagram. You can create a corrective action as well. To edit from a form, we'll just show that quickly. Under actions, we have edit diagram and edit. So the edit diagram will bring up the diagram in the web modeler like we saw before. But if we hit edit, it'll bring up the web form for the diagram that we can then change the content.
And then Anthony, also you could use the import from Word feature, right? In the description field.
Yeah. So we'll go back, we'll show that right now. We'll say edit. So for every text field, we can import from Word while keeping all of the formatting. So when you have a text field, we have this little button here, toggle full screen mode, or you can use F8. We'll click that, and then this sort of expanded view opens up for us. Here, there's a little, it looks like a clipboard with a W on it. That is import from Word. When we click on that, our drive will open. And this is an example that I've created. So model gallery Word document will open. And there we go. So it's kept all the pictures, all the formatting. I don't have to do anything to this. And when I close, and the button, sometimes it gets a lot. I've lost it up here sometimes. It actually just goes right down here. Toggle full screen mode. We'll go back and you'll see that still, even in this view, the formatting has stayed. To show one more thing, we'll go back to home. Process management.
Denise, you remember the old days when you couldn't have a picture in your description, right?
Well.
We've come a long way, hey, Denise?
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
So here's a way to edit sort of all your processes. So I showed you on the diagram how you can edit everything within the diagram through a spreadsheet, because I sort of do it very quickly. There's also a way to do that for all of the processes. So here is a tile down here, modify processes. So we will click that. And here's another spreadsheet. It's loading. And here are all the processes. So again, maybe your role requires you to sort of oversee 20, 30 processes, and you don't want to have to click into every one and see the information and change it and then exit out. Here is all of the processes in a quick spreadsheet where we can edit the information, just like in that other in the other spreadsheet. So again, we'll go back to owner. Actually, we'll go back to one that's empty. Or responsible. And we'll put a position. We'll put the chief financial officer in this case. And again, even from a spreadsheet, it is possible to create new. So I selected position in the bottom left-hand corner here. We see create new. So let's create new. Create new position. We'll put operations manager. And it's selected. And we can select there. So just to reiterate that while we can model processes, we can still include all the other pieces of our architecture and even contribute to all the other parts of our architecture with goals, objects, regulations, or objectives, positions, we can still contribute to all of that with a Plus license. With that, Kirill is going to demonstrate a Spreadsheet GTI.
We're going to call it Spreadsheet GTI. It's actually not officially called Spreadsheet GTI, but I'd like to say it is a GTI web version, guys. And I think it's quite useful. There's actually a license user to load content into the repository without using the QLAM or without using the architect license. So I'm just going to share my screen. We got an example set up for you. All right. So spreadsheets. Anthony was talking about the spreadsheets. Now you see a blank spreadsheet in the web. When you go into data, we got load file content into the spreadsheet. Some of you are familiar with that feature. Some of you might not. It is something that's been introduced, I think, in 10.5 or 10.3. And really, the outcome to that is that you can grab a CSV file and then load it into QualiWare by using the spreadsheet function. So I'm going to click, going to open my C drive. I'm going to click APM example. And now what it does, it actually loaded the content directly from my spreadsheet on my laptop. So you might notice there is a columns in here. I'm just going to move them around. If the system is not going to freeze on me, because I know demo gods have been cruel recently. Give me a second, guys. Just going to refresh it. Essentially, what's going to happen once I load it, it will open the three tabs at the bottom, 3 sheets. So you got a content stuff going on the first page, which is exactly my content from the spreadsheet. Then we have the rules, and then we have the options. In the options, this is where you decide what type of diagram I would like to load using that content from the spreadsheet. So the diagram types provided by QualiWare out of the box is business process diagram and then workflow diagram. You can actually enter any type of template manually from in it. It could be infrastructure diagram, application architecture diagram, regardless. The system is not going to give you a drop-down menu for those activities and attributes and so on. If you do know them from QLAM, you can just manually input them, and this will allow you to load the content. Now, I'm going to demonstrate the business process diagram, which is BPMN diagram. You got the object name going on here. So the object name, I leave it as a text, mapped to the template. This is all what your Plus license user need to know. What do I want to load it to? Well, it would be an activity in this case. And then it's obviously a name of the activity, so I will just enter name, format it, we'll leave it as is, show in the diagram, yes, action. What do you want to do with this object? Well, I would like to create it, and it should be a primary item. Now we did that, perfect. I will take then activity. Actually, I'm going to skip for that. I'll take who's responsible. So we'll set somebody responsible for this sub-process or activity. I will then search who is responsible for the, so it should be has responsible attribute in QualiWare. And where is it? Here you go, we found it. Has responsible, perfect. What do we want to do with it? Well, we'd like to set it as an attribute. So it'll be an attribute to the primary item, which is an activity. Then we will set some goals. We'd like to attach some goals or strategic alignment to those activities. What type of goals does that support? In the type here, I'm going to select link. I will select activity. And then in here, I'll be looking for strategic alignment. Voila, strategic alignment. Now, here's the important part. We don't want this to be shown on the diagram, because at the end of this exercise, the system is not going to just generate those objects in the repository. It's actually going to convert all of that material into the model on the web modeler. And this is the primary difference between the GTI and this web GTI, as I like to call it. It really takes all of those objects, convert them into the repository, database, and then it converts it into the model, where a regular GTI just loads it into the repository database. So show diagram, I'm going to click no, and then do nothing. I'm actually going to select create secondary item and link it from primary item. Now we are set to load content and convert that into the model. So we got the activity, we have who's responsible for that activity, and we know that it supports some sort of a goals. We're going to go to data, and we will convert to model. And yes, we need to save the content first, and then this will auto-generate the model in the web modeler. So when I click on any of those activities, I will open them, and you will notice we got responsible field filled out, and then we have a goal connected to that. Well, this one is showing an activity, and this is a mistake on my end. I should have changed it to goal. So I'm going to go back, and we will make it right this time. So this brings me back to the spreadsheet. Essentially, you go back to this web GTI view, and then in here, this is my mistake. I should have entered actually not the activity. I should have just entered goal. I'm going to go back. I'll save it. I'll click data, convert to model. And now we should have that connected as actually the goal. And now, so this way you could actually convert all of the stuff you have going on in your CSV files without you using any QLM. You don't need an architect license for that. You just need a plus license in order to operate with the content and load it into the repository. Well, again, you get with plus license, you get really value for your money. So your business users who want to create, modify, model some of the content in the web, they're able to do that really just by using plus license. Are there any questions about this function, guys?
So Carol, just to be clear, when you go back on the settings where the dropdown just has the two templates, if you type over that and say put in application architecture, then when I go back to the rules tab, the dropdowns will all be pertinent to an application architecture diagram.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
Okay.
They'll be actually blank. There'll be nothing showing for those options, Brenda. We actually are going to do it together right now. Why don't we do it together? Application architecture diagram. If I can type correctly. Yeah, so this is something important to notice. So you will get only those two options, the business process diagram and workflow diagram, available out of the box for you. And then the system will give you hints what type of attributes and what type of activities or objects available for that diagram. For the rest of the stuff, you need to remember it yourself, or you need to have a QLM open to remember what type of the attributes am I loading that to.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
If I have an architect license, will it allow me to select those other diagrams?
I don't
no,
think
no,
so.
No. It's currently set up right now in a limited basis on those two diagrams. But again, guys, if somebody is experienced and knows his way around QLM, or he has, maybe a catalog of those attributes, I could easily enter information system here. I'll do that. And there's no responsible. Information system does not have responsible, has system support and system owner, but I will leave that as a blank, and I'll set the goal, and I'll set the information system. So what it's going to do, it's actually going to generate the model with information systems. So save that and go to data, and that should be working. Here you go. Now we got all of those information systems presented on the canvas. Not every single, obviously, repository objects that you load, you want to put it on the model, but this could be a nice way to do a catalog. This could also be an easy way to, again, the load content without using the QLM. For the Plus license user, this is the only way for you guys to get this CSV file from your laptop and load it into the repository.
And if you had said not to include it on the diagram, it would just create it in the repository as an object and available for reuse and not on the diagram.
Very, very good point. Yes, Brenda. It still will load the canvas as a blank, as a converted diagram, but yes, it's not going to show anything on the actual diagram.
Carol, Denise has a question. Can access to this web GTI be restricted to selected users?
Yes, Denise, I imagine this would be a question. Yes. When Dan Howen asked about the restricting some of the capabilities of Web Modeler, I realized this will be a question. So Denise, essentially the way how you get to this point, you need to have a blank spreadsheet. And if anybody is opening an existing spreadsheet with the regular attributes, the one that Anthony was showing, where you can edit, processes and stuff like that, this data feature won't be available. It actually won't be. Now, what I would do, I would either check the content tabs for the spreadsheet. Maybe there's a way to do that. The other way, it would be actually restricting a user from creating a spreadsheet in the Repository Explorer. This will have to be it, because every single time when I go to a spreadsheet, it would give me a couple of options. It would give me an option to create a spreadsheet, and then you can select a heat map or a standard. I'm gonna write test 1, and that. As soon as you click on standard or free format, this feature will appear on the spreadsheet. Okay. If you choose link matrix or a heat map, this won't be the case. So you would need to restrict an access for the user to create entirely a spreadsheet from the web in order to, prevent them from playing with their own CSV file.
Okay. I'm sure there's a way somehow, but I'm just.
And we could, the role-based access is another.
Role-based access. So. Yeah. So that would be it.
This could do a lot of good, but it could also do a lot of harm.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Just and like the GTI.
And that's why we recommend having a separate private workspace or a separate repository for input and export, import and export like this.
Good idea.
But at the end of the day, I'd rather have this feature than not having it at all. So.
Well, it's like anything. It's manageable. It's manageable risk, right? So how do we limit the impact of people going and importing stuff that they don't really, understand what they're doing?
Yeah, role-based access would be the best way to go around it. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Any other questions, guys? I think again, Plus license is the way to go. As QualiWare moves to the web, we see the increased value of Plus license. Again, you can modify any type of the content using the Plus license. It doesn't have to be those 4 or 5 diagrams that are available for you to model. You can just take any type of spreadsheet with information systems and start doing some collaboration, essentially. Anthony, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Sorry, took a little bit more time.
That's okay. There's just one feature, actually, I just wanted to show very quickly. So I'm just going to share my screen, and this won't be very long.
So just while you're doing that, I think to Kirill's point, for users that are required to collaborate and work together on capturing content and creating content, this is great. I mean, there is always still going to be a need for architects to have full architect capability right on the web, but for collaboration of business users and other users, collaboration license is perfect.
And that's really the difference, right? Like you can split your user community, the business community, into 2 parts: those that need to maintain content and those that are purely want to collaborate, being able to use the different views, analyze the information, use all of the buttons that Anthony showed you here before, on these various dashboards. That's a very simple collaboration license, not even the Plus license. And those people can add tags and can add comments and non-conformances and those enter ideas and those types of things. So, you know, again, those collaboration licenses are as cheap as they're ever going to get. The Plus is a nice bridge between, you know, a full up to a full architect license, you know, being able to manage content. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, the last thing I want to show is that on top of modifying content, with the Plus license, you can also make use of QualiWare's automated processes. So in this case is a, like I said, a diagram or a process I've created. And up here you see finished with a drop down circulate. So this is in fact part of the change management process. So I've created this and now I want to send it out for review. I'm also able to do that. I can make use of sort of that functionality within QualiWare. So if I wanted, I can either circulate this to a predetermined set of people that I've, a list that I've input. So I want maybe my manager, my coworkers, I want them to review this document, input their comments. I can set it for circulation, or I could send it to ready for approval. I can send it right to whoever needs to approve it. That could be my manager or maybe the director. They review it and they approve it. So you're not left out of the loop on the larger sort of automated processes in your organization. So just, we have this exclamation mark to the side. I've selected it, and here is just sort of taking us through the change management process. So with the Plus license, you're still part of this process.
So the governance setup and configuration is still, you know, you're identifying governance roles and the actions that are taken, you know, the governance states and the transitions, but the collaboration user can participate in governance, right? So they're actively involved in, you know, actioning or moving something through the governance workflow.
And that's it. That was my last point there, Kevin.
Great job, Anthony.
So at this point, what we can do is we can open up the floor for the open forum. If anyone has any questions, comments, have noticed anything within the tool that they wanted to share, the floor is open.
So when you're ready to purchase more Plus licenses, you know who to call. 1-800-CloseReach.
Well, and I think for some existing departments and clients is to, you know, we can talk to you about how you can paint the vision of your implementation of those licenses. So we have clients who are sitting holding licenses, but perhaps have not rolled out in the tool yet how, you know, they would enable those for collaboration on the web and stuff. So we're happy to discuss that with you and help you get that going. And of course, additional licenses purchases are always welcome.
Well, fiscal year end is coming, so.
As for the training course, Kevin mentioned, you know, we have a lot of updates going to our training courses. And so we'll also be updating the publisher course to include the dashboards and dashboard items and the configuration of those things that Anthony demonstrated. So that is done again through some of the publisher functionality, if you will, and also we'll be looking at updating the advanced course. The QualiWare Basic is pretty much done for the web. We just have some minor tweaks to do to some of the exercises, and then the Collaboration Plus user one that is really just geared around web modeling and some of the collaboration and governance stuff. Is pretty much done as well.
So if it's been a long time since you've taken Publisher, there's a lot of new things, HTML dialog layouts and all kinds of other information with respect to tiles, menus, and other things. So you may want to, you know, either get that off the COE and there's stuff there, or take the course, and Brenda and Anthony will be there to help you out.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next month, and we'll
soon.
have some more updates and hopefully some more QualiWare AI information for you as well. And
QualiAI is going to bring the web modeler to the next level. That's for sure. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great job, everyone.
thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.